Scott Lanningham at Interconnect 2017, joined right now by a couple of gentlemen from IRIS.TV, a really interesting subject here. Down at the end is Richie Hyden, who is co-founder and COO, and next to me is Thomas Sullivan, who is Chief Data Scientist, both again with IRIS.TV. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So why don't you start us off, Richie, tell us exactly what IRIS.TV is.
So IRIS.TV is a personalized video programming platform. So basically, when digital video was emerging in 2006 and 2007, we saw a fundamental problem for media companies to distribute their content to their audiences in a more effective way. So we've built a personalization system that enables media companies to distribute content to their audiences on their digital destinations in a more effective and linear viewing experience. So we're utilizing a series of machine learning and augmented intelligence to start to understand what are the likes and dislikes of members of an audience, what are the preferences that push them in certain directions when they're viewing content, and how do we take a data-driven approach to surface content to them in a more linear viewing experience.
Do you deal with all kinds of clients? I mean, I know we're all used to things like Netflix and Hulu and all that, but it sounds like you're talking about bringing that kind of intelligence and more to maybe those that don't have it now. Is that what we're
Absolutely. So we started with our focus in media and entertainment, specifically in what we call short-form ad-supported media. So those are pieces of content that are between 3 and 5 minutes that are typically monetized with a 15 or 30-second pre-roll advertisement. But absolutely, the application, we're now moving into e-commerce, into retail, into long form, so looking at theatrical movies and long form content as well as episodic. So it's a really exciting time for media and for video in general as consumers move into the digital space.
I know Thomas has an example that he wants to share of this in action with a client, but I wonder if you could kind of set the technology up for us, what's going on under the hood before we look at this.
Absolutely, so there's three main verticals to the platform. We call them Asset IQ, Adaptive Stream, and Iris Vision. And there's three different processes that we run through when working with different clients. So the first thing that we look at is the data structuring. And Tom's going to talk a little bit today about Asset IQ and how we take unstructured data, how we optimize and enrich that data so that it's ready for recommendation and personalization. So there's a series of tools that are under the hood there, including the IBM Watson tools. Adaptive Stream is our series of APIs, and basically you can think about those as APIs living inside the video player. Creating that Pandora-like viewing experience. So those are our hooks into the consumers and into the audience to say, what are they doing? What are the likes and the dislikes? Where are they consuming and completing content, and where are they being lost, and where are their areas of optimization? And then the final vertical is Iris Vision. And really, rather than being another analytics platform and reporting the news, we want to build a platform that's around prescriptive insight and intelligence that media companies, video publishers, education groups can make actionable decisions on. So those are our three verticals, and it's kind of like a cycle. And we say to our clients, if we put quality into the funnel and we understand how our audience is consuming that content, then we can take a prescriptive approach to re-engage the beginning of that funnel.
That's terrific. Thomas, do you want to take us through it?
Sure, so what we're doing here is we're trying to match the users that we well understand, we know where they're coming from, we know what device they're using, and we know some history of their preferences. And we have an entire library of content that we're trying to match with those users to extend their experience, make sure they have a satisfactory experience using the IRIS tools so they come back. We're getting loyalty there, and so as you spend more time looking at an IRIS-powered site, you're not spending time on a competitor site, and therefore it's better for our clients. So what we're doing here is we're trying to take the raw data. As I mentioned, we know the user side very well, but don't understand the metadata as well because it's really unstructured. So what we have done in this case is we had a really large European client who was suffering from, they weren't getting the traction with the users that they wanted. And the main problem was their video libraries, the individual videos were not categorized. It didn't say this is a sports video, this is an automotive video. And that's really helpful for understanding if you're trying to personalize content. If you know a person likes automotive, then you can serve automotive content to that person. So what we really wanted to do was to build a set of categories using IBM-powered metadata and then assign the assets, the video assets, to those categories. So we use the Asset IQ system that Richie alluded to, and here's kind of what it looked like. Originally, as you start off, this is all English language, and what we were given for each video was the title and the description only. So it's just a set of words, it's sentences that were chosen by the client or the creator of the video content. And then what we do is we pass that through the Alchemy API in this case, using the named entity recognition, understanding who the people and places and events that are represented in those videos are. Additionally, keywords, and then we, if necessary, look at tone and sentiment and some of the other features that help us better understand what this individual asset is all about. And what we then did, and so in this case, this is what the Alchemy API looked like after we served it. And so here's a list of some of those assets that I showed in the previous slide, and identified persons and keywords and other type of things that is very helpful. Now we understand what the videos are about.
Yeah. Suddenly now you have categories.
Now we were almost there with the categories. The next step is to use the IRIS proprietary tool using the IBM output as an input to our system and build categories, and here's an example of that. These are a list on the left-hand side of keywords and the frequency at which they occurred in the video asset library, and you can sort of see a common theme or topic here, which was showbiz. So what we did is we named this category showbiz, and there were other categories that also naturally just fell out of this data, and it turned out that we ended up with 8 separate categories, and then we're able to take each of those videos that was used, that was uncategorized before, and put it into one of the 8 categories. And here's an example of some of them. Some of the categories would be global news, sport, conflict, and there's the showbiz that is mentioned in there. So now we've gone to a largely unknown assets, turned it into tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of videos that now belong to a category. So what does that do for IRIS? Well, we have something we call lift, which would be after a user starts a session, watches their first video, a good measure of how well we're doing would be if they watch more, they stay on and watch more video and longer. And the percentage of follow-on views that happen after the initial one is what we call lift. And normally we're seeing, for this client, we're seeing a number around 80%, which said after a user watched the first video, on average they watched about 8/10 of another one, less than one, and then we increased that to 125%.
Wow.
And so the big increase is from 80 to 125%. That's just in terms of video views. What's really important is the revenue, the daily revenue change that resulted from this very simple change of categorizing their video asset library with the help of IBM's tools, increased their daily revenue by 87%.
So it's not just the immediate stickiness, and it's all the things that the ripple in the pond, right?
Exactly.
The ripples, I mean, satisfaction across the board, really, in the experience.
Absolutely.
Right.
Wow, that's terrific. So where are you guys going to take this next? I mean, it sounds like this is a great launching pad for other potential uses of what you want to do here.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've decided to focus our attention on video and video engagement. And so that's probably the easiest way to talk about what we do. It's a series of inputs and outputs, and if we do our job, we take an audience that may be unengaged and we engage them. And we can talk about that in lots of different ways. So as Tom described, in our short form media environment, that's about velocity of supply. And how can we take video views from a set audience, and how can we amplify that drives a direct revenue increase. Now, there's applications for the same technology that we're working in both today and in R&D for long form content, a little bit more similar to like a Netflix style viewing experience, where we're trying to reduce churn, increase subscriber yield from a platform that a media company may be subscriber based, right, and charging on a monthly fee. So if you think about that platform, it's all based on inputs and outputs. So where we're heading in general is media is our first destination, that's our first pit stop. We do have applications that we're working on next in the education space, in e-commerce, and in retail, talking about those KPIs in many different ways. So, for example, we've had obviously a big change in the retail space. We've got a lot of brick and mortar stores starting to close down. We've got the emergence or the dominance of Amazon, and then you've got the question to the Home Depots and the Sears of the world, how do I compete? How do I take a digital audience and compete with a storefront as robust as Amazon? And so our approach is to say, video is the fastest growing form of media and consumption in digital today. How can we take that form of media and create a more engaging experience to drive product sales by educating the consumer what their likes and dislikes may be of their favorite television set or their lawnmower. So we're really excited where video is going in general,
Yeah.
and all the different applications that we see out in the marketplace.
You had one more slide, didn't you, Thomas, that was kind of showing what he was talking about?
Right, sure.
Right, and as you talk about video, is the growth of viewership of the percentage of overall web traffic that video? I know that's been growing.
Yep.
Is that reaching a peak, or is that continuing to grow in leaps and bounds right now?
It's definitely growing. I think at the moment 80% of all digital consumption is through video. So
it's only got 20 more percent to go, right?
It's got 20 more percent to go, but the growth rate of video in general, just in the short form ad-supported space, is 20 to 25% year over year. And I think that's conservative in the rate in which device proliferation is moving. So as we had the release of smartphone technology, we've got the beginning of VR. That's a really exciting space that's tied to 360 and true AR opportunities. And these are all different forms of video, different forms of media that are going to have different applications to all of these verticals. And I think that's really exciting, especially for a company like ourselves that's placed ourselves at the epicenter of video. And I think, tying this back to why we're all here, what's really, really important is that we help our clients understand how to structure their businesses, and structuring their data is a core competency. So I think, what we're really excited about working with the IBM team is how do we take our clients in any one of these verticals, how do we help them create a strategy that makes sense and helps them maximize reach and revenue, and what tools does IBM have that get them there? And how do we feed those into our system to help them grow in the future?
As you say, I mean, video isn't this static thing, right? It continues to evolve and encompass more things all the time. So when we say that word, it continues to broaden. Absolutely. In what we consume on the internet. So
Absolutely.
That's why this is more important than ever, what you're doing. Thank you all so much for stopping by to talk about it. We appreciate it. It was very entertaining.
Thanks for having me.
Again, Thomas Sullivan next to me, Chief Data Scientist at IRIS.TV, and Richie Hyden, who is co-founder and COO. Again, IRIS.TV, IRIS.TV. Check them out on the web. I'm Scott Lanningham, and we're IBM.